Hi beautiful ladies, welcome back to my channel. So today I wanted to talk to you about some reasons why you may not be getting ahead in your level up journey. So when you're navigating new spaces, especially elite spaces or spaces where there is a lot more money flowing around, these spaces tend to be more conservative and more traditional. And so you need to learn how to navigate these spaces so that you can be able to infiltrate these spaces and get what you want, essentially. So, as I've said in previous videos, you cannot rely on your looks alone to get ahead because, first of all, you're not the only pretty girl. There are many pretty girls out there, okay, dime a dozen. And depending on the social setting that you may be in, there may be girls who have a more appropriate, quote unquote, type of beauty in that space compared to yours. So, relying on your looks alone is kind of a losing battle. Secondly, looks are fleeting. People get used to it. Sometimes people lose their pretty privilege. And so, if that's kind of something that you've been riding on, you no longer have that to fall back on. So, being able to have other skills going for you is important. I made a video about this previously. I will link it above in the cards. But for the most part, a lot of girls who enter new spaces, and I'm speaking about Black exoticals specifically, because a lot of Black exoticals come from social settings where we're either very sheltered or we kind of just stick to the Black collective and then we kind of just don't venture out. And so we kind of take the rules and the social mores that are acceptable in the Black community and we try to apply it to other places, not realizing that what may fly in the Black community is not going to necessarily fly in other spaces. And so then Black exoticals have a hard time adjusting and navigating these spaces and fitting in. And then sometimes they think that, oh, maybe I shouldn't level up. Maybe, Auntie and them were right and I should just stick with the Black community because no one is going to accept me. Not realizing that you need to learn how to speak the language, so to speak, if you are going to survive. It's just like traveling to a foreign country like France, for example, or Italy, and thinking that you're going to survive by solely being able to speak English. You may be able to find a local who can carry a conversation in English, but if you are in a predominantly French or Italian or whatever speaking country, then it would behoove you to be able to, at the very minimum, be able to carry a basic conversation so that number one, you're able to survive and get what you need. And number two, so that you are not looked at as a vulnerable target. And the same applies when you are leveling up, whether it's in your career, in your business, if you're kind of just navigating your city, maybe as a socialite, or you're looking for marriage prospects outside of your socioeconomic status, you need to know how to navigate these places properly. And so, one of the things that I notice that a lot of Black exoticals struggle with is the fact that a lot of you deal with poor social elegance, meaning that you have bad manners and you don't know how to read the room. So, for example, showing up to spaces kind of dressed like how you would dress to go to a club. And this is not to stigmatize every single Black exotical. So if this doesn't relate to you, please be mature enough to compartmentalize and move on. But for, again, some of you who have not been exposed to life outside of the Black community, you kind of think that, showing up with a 30-inch bust down or with your baby hairs plastered to your forehead and super long nails, that this should be accepted in non-Black spaces. And then whenever it's brought up, it's always, oh, why do I have to code switch or adjust myself to appeal to white people? And it's like, first of all, white people are not the only race of people that you have to navigate. So let's stop creating this dichotomy of you creating whiteness as the default, number one. And number two, when you are navigating a system that was built by a group of people to benefit them, it would make sense for you to be able to navigate that space so that you too can benefit by some extension because you are essentially entering their stomping grounds. And so the playing field is not level, the playing field is in their favor. And so if you want to level the playing field, so to speak, declaring racism and trying to guilt trip people into giving you a fair chance is not going to work. Certain talking points should not be discussed outside of your friend circle or outside of your home. Do not be loud and confrontational if that is your style. If someone is saying something to you that you don't necessarily agree with, learn how to excuse yourself discreetly from a conversation and move on. Or if you are the type who works in a corporate setting that is predominantly white, or maybe you go to a PWI, do not enter these spaces with your fist in the air talking about your blackety blackety black and the powers that be must bow down to your blackness. Like, it hasn't worked before, and with this new administration, if you haven't noticed, it's not going to work now. And I've said in previous videos, people no longer care about being called racist or being accused of racism. So you need to get with the program, learn how to be neutral, learn how to be cordial in public settings. If the other person is not being neutral, that is a ticket for you to excuse yourself again from that setting and let that person look like a jackass while you always want to position yourself in a positive light where, at the very least, if people don't have anything else to say about you or they don't know anything else about you, at least they could say, oh, that she's very well mannered, very well tempered, I don't know much about her, but why not give her a chance at X, Y, and Z because she knows how to carry herself well. She's professional, she knows how to regulate her emotions. Why not? I don't see any risk. Someone who is fleeting, someone who has bad manners, someone who doesn't know how to read the room, so to speak, is a risk to anyone that they're involved with, whether it's romantically, professionally, whatever, because that person is like a ticking time bomb and they lack the ability to be aware enough to understand when certain things are acceptable and when certain things are not. And a person like that is a liability and will be avoided at all costs. So if you find that you are in situations where people are repelled by you, maybe they don't stick around much in conversations or in public, or they kind of just avoid you, or they only invite you out to go to like the club, then maybe you need to take a look at your manners, take a look at your social elegance, and understand the social cues and the social mores of the setting that you are in and act accordingly. And if you don't want to act accordingly, then continue to just stick with the environment that you're in and continue to just not expand your options because people of diverse settings and backgrounds, for the most part, they understand that social elegance is key in being able to navigate elevated spaces. Which leads me to my next point. Some of you lack emotional intelligence. So you don't know how to manage and regulate your emotions. You don't know what triggers you. And when something does trigger you, you don't know how to self-soothe. You don't know how to manage yourself so that, you're not a ticking time bomb. And so anytime that something upsets you, you kind of just fly off the handle. Or maybe you're the type to just kind of make your problem everyone else's problem. Maybe you're just emotional all the time and you kind of just don't know how to hide your emotions in public settings. This is similar to poor social elegance in that, again, you are seen as a liability and not an asset because at any moment, anything can trigger you. And instead of you being able to control yourself, you kind of just allow yourself to fall by the wayside like a child does when they're having a temper tantrum in public. And obviously, having a lack of emotional intelligence doesn't always play out like that in the most extreme cases, but you get the point that I'm trying to make. So learn how to regulate your emotions. And this is very valuable even in your personal relationships. If you're finding that a lot of your relationships are superficial and people kind of just avoid tough conversations or they just don't confide in you, it could be because they recognize that you're not able to regulate your emotions. And so, in order to avoid you having a meltdown or you painting yourself as a perpetual victim and kind of just staying there, they say, you know what, it's much easier if I just avoid this conversation altogether with this individual and just keep things very surface level, which honestly can bite you in the butt and can really prevent you from having good, wholesome conversations. It can prevent you from getting promotions at your job or getting ahead in your business, because it'll just signal to people that you lack the ability to be able to handle the hard conversations that leaders are able to handle. You're not able to handle yourself with elegance and poise. Like, when you're in certain settings, there are always going to be people who are going to try to piss you off, who are going to try to push your buttons because they have nothing else going for themselves. And so they try to take cheap shots at people who do well. You see this all the time with politicians. Okay, you see this all the time with celebrities. You'll see that they get heckled by whether it's paparazzi, the media, or just random civilians making inappropriate comments about the person. And so they kind of just get heckled and they carry on. Naomi Campbell used to be known to be the person whose buttons you could push if you were looking for a quick paycheck. Naomi Campbell used to be known as the type of person that, hey, look, if you're looking to get paid, just say something inappropriate and she's going to fly off the handle and you can sue her. Don't be like Naomi Campbell. Okay, Matt, I don't think she's like that now, which is great, but don't be like Naomi Campbell in the height of her career where she kind of just was not able to control herself. A part of emotional regulation is being able to understand that you are a target and that people will try to use whatever it takes to get a reaction out of you because they're looking for a cheap shot of dopamine, or they're just low vibrational people. And instead of them doing the inner work to make themselves feel fulfilled, they would much rather chip away at someone that they think is an easy target to achieve the same effect. So manage your emotions. Rihanna is really good at this. Whenever reporters ask her stupid questions that she doesn't want to answer, she's very good at either just addressing it right then and there in a very professional yet assertive manner so the person knows, okay, this is not someone that I can try, or she'll just deflect or just walk away altogether. But you never see Rihanna kind of having a meltdown and carrying on and talking about how you're always trying to oppress a black woman. Like, she just keeps it moving because she realizes that as a billionaire, there is too much at stake for her to allow people to get under her skin and to make her behave out of character. So learn how to manage your emotions, learn how to understand what your triggers are, why they trigger you. Okay, this involves shadow work, looking at that hidden aspects of yourself that you kind of try to repress. Bring those to the surface so that you can understand what your triggers are, why they trigger you, and how to protect yourself so that you're either not triggered or that you kind of do not unravel at the seams when you do get triggered. Similar to this is that you don't know how to network. Again, a lot of Black exoticals are sheltered, and we're kind of told that it's not safe outside of the Black community, especially in white spaces. We're told that we'll never be accepted, that they'll only see us as, the disenfranchised Black girl. And so it's important to kind of stick with your own kind and not venture elsewhere. And you're going to meet all sorts of people from all walks of life, including racist people. But for the most part, most people don't give a damn about racism. Most people are just looking out for themselves and trying to align with things that will benefit them the most. And so they don't really care about what you got going on. And you should adopt that mentality as well when you're networking and enter spaces where you can benefit. Look for opportunities anywhere from anyone, regardless of if they belong to your community or not, because a lot of times you will find elevation and you will find benefits and blessings when you step outside of your comfort zone and learn how to commune with people who are different from you. This has worked for me. When I was in college, even though I went to a top university, it was a PWI made the mistake of only sticking around black folk, and I had to deal with the crabs in the bucket mentality. And I honestly did not reap the benefits of what that institution had to offer because I was so afraid of stepping out of my comfort zone and communing with people who were different from me because I internalized what I was told about the outside world. And it's not until I went into corporate and networked and got around people from different walks of life that I realized that it's more so about aligning with allies. So people who have your best interests at heart, people who will have your back and who can vouch for you, over just aligning with people who have the same skin tone and hair texture as you. Because I've experienced the most pushback from people who looked like me, and I've received a lot of support from women and men who are different from me, including white people. So learn how to network. Not everyone is out there to kind of be racist and kind of stab you in the back and whatever. People are, number one, always remember people are going to always work in their best interest. And so, they're going to navigate spaces in ways that benefit them. But you can also use that to your advantage and do the same as them, but also align with them so that they see that you are an asset for them to align with as well. And you can both win from a situation. Which leads me to my final point. I know that there are many of you who are upset with the outcome of this presidential election, but it is what it is. And now it's time for you to move on and accept that Trump is your president. Okay? In order to navigate and survive the next 4 years, I advise you, take my advice or don't, but for those who will, I advise you to keep your mouth shut and learn how to reap the benefits of having Trump as your president instead of playing the victim card. Okay? Do not go out there talking about, how oppressed you are going to be underneath this administration, because you never know who aligns with what, especially in the work setting. The work setting is a type of place where people typically do not reveal their political stance. This is a form of social elegance where these are just one of the things that is unacceptable to kind of talk about in social settings. And so if you are that individual who kind of thinks that it's your duty to talk about, how this is going to impact you and how oppressed you are going to fall by the wayside in so many more ways than one. Number one, it shows that you lack social elegance. Number two, it shows that you're not able to manage your emotions enough to keep it to yourself and reserve those conversations for close friends and family. And number three, I hate to break it to you, but a lot of these corporations that you work for and that you do business with, whether you are a customer at a bank or you hire the services of a lawyer, they are right-leaning conservatives because the conservatives tend to have policies that favor the corporations. And regardless of what your stance is on this, and even if Kamala Harris won this election, always try to find a way to see how you can reap the benefits from any administration, okay? And so that means keeping your eyes on his policies and figure out how you can benefit from them. Whether it's starting a business, each administration, they often will incentivize businesses that work in a certain industry. So maybe if you have expertise in that industry, for example, start a business now so that you can reap the benefits from that. Or maybe you have a business now or just a business in general. You can benefit from tax cuts. And most importantly, because I know that this is important to a lot of women who listen, it also includes dating men and marrying men who benefit from Trump's presidency more than you do in terms of their privilege, forming those strategic alliances so that you can, by extension, benefit from that as well, instead of trying to form fake alliances with men who haven't built any infrastructure for you and your community to thrive on. Okay? Stop trying to make this Black haven happen. It hasn't happened for all these years, and it's not going to happen now, especially considering the fact that Black men voted for Trump 2 times more than Black women did. Okay, that should let you know, regardless of what you think, that should be, regardless of where you are on the political spectrum, that should be enough indication to let you know that Black men would much rather reap the benefits directly from a white man than try to build their own thing and see their own community thrive. So you need to do the same and start to be self-serving, and you need to get and align with men whose privilege and power in their image benefits from aligning with Trump directly, okay? Thank you so much for listening. Let me know what you think about this one below in the comments, and I will see you in the next video.